Before we get started here today, I wanted to give you a little bit of my professional training and background. I've been a law enforcement officer for almost 17 years, coming up on 17. For 10 of those years, I served as a patrol officer with a number of municipal police agencies, obtaining the rank of corporal and serving as a training officer in numerous disciplines. As of the last 7 years, I'm a full-time law enforcement trainer with a state law enforcement agency, with certifications in a number of areas, including some investigative type of disciplines. But particular to today, I do have a certification as a law enforcement instructor, firearms instructor, since the year 2000. Now, with that being said, what I'm presenting to you is simply my opinion. I'm not interested in getting into a debate about it. It's simply my opinion, and so take it for what it is. Now, the reason I'm discussing these things today is I get a lot of calls from friends and family, and sometimes even complete strangers in stores when I'm in my uniform, which this is not, about concealed carry, what kind of gun should I pick, what kind of training should I do. So to address those issues, I put this little video together. So let's talk about a few things. Let's talk about gun choice. A lot of people, friends, family, and otherwise, have told me many times, well, I want to buy a gun for self-defense or target shooting or whatever, but they make references to the gun looking intimidating. I like it because of the way it looks, or because it's blue, or it's green, or it's pink, different things such as that, not so much considering the functionality of that particular gun. Although guns do look nice and they're designed to be appealing to the eye in some cases, that shouldn't really be a consideration when picking a firearm, in this case, particularly for a self-defense type situation. As far as the gun that you choose, please make sure that you know all the ergonomics, in other words, all the parts, how they work, what they do, and how to manipulate those parts. You don't want to be getting a gun that you don't have any idea how it operates. Along those lines are 2 points. One is, should I choose a revolver or a semi-automatic handgun? Well, most law enforcement agencies, and as far as I know, all of them, carry semi-automatic handguns like this Glock Model 22 40 caliber, which is kind of standard police issue. The thing about that is these semi-automatics have many more moving parts as compared to a revolver. A revolver is very simplified. It's got a couple, 2 or 3 moving parts at best, as compared to a semi-automatic. So why does that matter? Well, for someone who doesn't have the training or perhaps the understanding of the complicated workings of a semi-automatic handgun, I always encourage novice shooters, particularly looking for a gun for self-defense, to get a revolver for a number of reasons. Number one is simplicity. You got to remember something. When you're going to use or perhaps use a firearm in defense of your life or someone else's, you are going to be under a very stressful circumstance. It's usually going to be one that has caught you by surprise, and you need simplistic type of operation as compared to a complex operation. When you're under stress, your fine motor skills, the things that allow you to do very small, minute work, when under stress, are going to leave you. You are going to be left with what they call gross motor skill function. Basic movements at best with your hands because of the things that happen to your nervous system and the fight or flight response due to stress and that sort of thing. So under stress, this semi-automatic handgun does lots of things. If any of these functions fail to perform as they should, you've got a gun that basically is inoperable unless you know how to clear the malfunction or to figure out what's going on. And under stress, that's a very complicated thing to process in your mind. For law enforcement officers, we practice relatively frequently, and we practice under stress, making sure that our body is somewhat acclimated to those high stress levels so that we can manipulate all the things that this gun does. As compared to a revolver, though, revolvers I feel are much more reliable for a number of reasons. Number one is, again, simplicity of operation with these things, with these revolvers. And first of all, let's talk about some reliability. they're very forgiving. Again, only a few moving parts as long as you can manipulate perhaps the hammer. If it does have one, not all revolvers do. They have possibly an internal hammer. But the trigger here. Very few malfunctions happen with this. If there's a malfunction, it's usually because the gun has been kept dirty, it's been kept in a condition of disrepair, and it's usually an operator-induced type of error in regard to its malfunction. This right here, if a particular round of ammunition goes bad, you simply pull the trigger, pull the hammer, and the cylinder cycles to the next live round. As compared with a semi-automatic, if you have a failure of your ammunition, you have a bad primer, perhaps. You have a light primer strike. You have an underpowered round. There's not enough power in the round to expel the projectile out of the barrel. It's called a squib load. It may not recoil and eject the round properly. You have to stop, get cover, drop the magazine, rack the slide back and forth to make sure that any bad round has been ejected, that it hasn't been stuck in the barrel, and make sure that it's ready to go for the next live round, reinsert the magazine, and lock it back and ready to go. You don't have time to do all that in a high-stress situation unless you've trained for it. Again, with these revolvers, it's pretty simplistic. You can fire them from inside your pocket. You don't necessarily have to worry about the recoil of the slide getting hung up on anything per se, not as much as a revolver. So under a high-stress situation, there's just simply less things to worry about. Now, any gun can fail. Any gun can malfunction. Any ammunition can fail, but with the high levels of manufacturing these days, the chances of that are pretty slim. But if it's going to happen, we would not want it to happen in a high-stress, life and death type situation. So again, for novice type shooters who are looking for simplistic operation and reliability, I always recommend going with a revolver. Now, one question that comes up in regard to that is caliber choice and number of rounds. Here's the thing. You got this particular gun right here is a 22 caliber revolver. Very small bullet, holds 9 rounds. In contrast, this is a 40 caliber Glock Model 22, 40 caliber that holds 15 in the clip and 1 in the chamber. And, you know, if you're going to get into an extended gun battle with someone, then you might want to have a gun that has a lot of ammunition. But generally, in a life and death type situation where you're encountered with a suspect, it's going to be a very short duration and it's going to be very close combat type thing. So shot placement is more important than anything. I highly recommend that you practice and do your training with under stress, under time. Put yourself under stress. Put yourself under time. And you're going to get more and more proficient at reacting more quickly. And along with that, you need to be proficient in the proper manipulation of your gun for sight alignment, for trigger control, so that you can be as accurate as you possibly can, again, under stress. So if you are comfortable under stress and you've been practicing under stress, you are going to be more accurate with it. And that accuracy is the most important thing. I know there's debate out there about, you know, a big caliber as compared to a small caliber. Look here, something is better than nothing. Great if you have a .44 Magnum Dirty Harry handgun, but if you shoot someone in their big toe, they're still going to be a threat to you. They're still going to be a potential threat to your family or to yourself. Shot placement is everything. As a real quick reference to that, some of you may watch that show called Swamp People. It comes on one of the cable channels where these guys go out and hunt, 10 and 12 foot alligators. They shoot most of those alligators with a 22 caliber revolver or a rifle. So that right there proves shot placement is about as good as anything. So practice, practice, practice. Practice your trigger control, your sight alignment, practice under stress, and pick a caliber of gun that you're going to be comfortable with. Don't pick a gun that is going to be heavy in recoil, that's going to be uncomfortable to shoot, because you won't go out and practice with it if it's uncomfortable. And you probably won't carry it when you need it. So a caliber that's comfortable for you with proper shot placement will probably do you a lot of good. Now, one thing to consider also is your carry location. Where are you going to carry the gun? I am not a fan at all of ankle holsters. I'm not a fan of in the pocket holsters. I'm not even a fan of inside the pants type holsters. I'm a fan of holsters that can be worn on the outside of the belt that are concealed as to not look like a holster or not look like a gun, like the Sneaky Pete line of holsters for guns, or something that's up in the chest or arm area of a jacket or something like that. And this is why. In a high-stress situation, in a confrontational type situation, you are generally going to be surprised. Now, as law enforcement officers, we get into this habit of having our head on a swivel. We're always looking around us to gauge the environment and the situation. If you do not recognize the threat before they get to you, or if you do not recognize the threat that you are potentially in, it is going to catch you by surprise. If you are caught by surprise, no amount of training in the world, however great, is going to make you faster. In other words, not going to make you faster in your reaction than their action. So, situational awareness. Be looking around you, in front of you, behind you, having your head on the swivel, not just for people, but the environments that you're in. So when you see it coming, or you think it's coming, you're starting to stage yourself, starting to stage your body to get that gun out quickly. So having that situational awareness. And so have it somewhere near where your hands are going to be. Some people are going to have their hands down by their side, near their pockets, which is fine, but having your hands up here and around this area is going to give a quicker response for you in that regard. If you have it on your ankle, which I can't stand, you don't have time to sit there and tell the bad guy, hold on a minute, let me reach down here on my ankle and get this pistol. They're not going to give you the time. Another thing about that is you're putting yourself in a disadvantageous position for two reasons. Number one, you're taking your eye off the target. You're taking your eye off the threat, which may move, which may be coming in on you. Number three is you are bending over. You are getting into a lower level and a lower position to have some type of physical force used against you. Neither can you stand on one foot and bring your ankle up to your chest. That's going to be problematic as well. It's going to take too long to get that gun out. Inside the pocket type holsters, they're okay, but I'm still not a fan of those because you have to reach into your pocket. You have to make sure that whatever gun you have doesn't snag on your pocket, and that it comes out cleanly and it comes out quickly. It's one of the considerations when buying a gun is what type of angles and edges do you have. So if you decide to do that, make sure you get a holster that form-fits your pocket and that stays in your pocket as you draw out your firearm. You don't want to draw out your firearm and have your holster on the end of it. Again, I'm a fan of having the gun somewhere up around the chest with a shoulder rig maybe, inside the jacket or on the waist like this, either concealed with a jacket or in a concealed carry type of holster on the exterior part of your pants. And so, that's kind of it in a nutshell in regard to picking a firearm for you. I want you to bear in mind, though, that depending on where you're watching this, your states may have varying types of self-defense laws and regulations, so be intimately familiar what your laws and regulations are in regard to the use of deadly force. In most cases, when you pull out this, you are pulling it out with the intent that someone meant to do you harm, either kill you or create some type of serious bodily injury to you or someone else. It's not meant to kind of be a point and intimidation type weapon and back off, although sometimes that's what happens when it's first drawn. If your intention is just to scare somebody, you're probably going to get in a lot of trouble with your state laws and that sort of thing. You basically have to be able to articulate that you believe that your life was in danger or that of your family member, some serious bodily injury or death. So just as a refresher, go back, hit the highlights. Choose a gun that you're comfortable with as far as caliber, as far as recoil, as far as size. Throw away this idea of it looking pretty, okay, or looking good or looking intimidating. Better that you know how to use it than how it looks, okay? Number two, train. Train under stress, train under time, train getting that gun out from where you're going to carry it every day. Number three, Remember your situational awareness. Look around you, in front of you, behind you. Look at who's coming, who's going, and the type of environment that you are in. Carry location, somewhere near where you can quickly access it. Again, I'm not a fan of on the ankle or the thigh or anything like that. And if you whatever gun you decide to carry, make sure your shot placement is good with whatever condition that you are in, and educate yourself on your state laws in regard to self-defense and the use of concealed carry firearms. So that's kind of it. I hope it helped you out, and be safe out there. We'll see you next time.